Ladies and gentlemen, this Unprecedented Times podcast, also known as the
Uncommon Man podcast.
is
Nice how
brought
the
to
things
you.
flow together. Unprecedented Times and Uncommon Man podcast. I'm your host, David. This is Mike. Ladies and gentlemen, let's not kid ourselves. This is a shit show here, okay?
Wild.
So we're just gonna, we're just gonna give our, just kind of, we have questions, okay? We have questions, that shit ain't been answered for us, okay? So we're just throwing it out there, So Mike, what questions you got?
So this is not pro anarchy. Don't read into this anything more than this, folks. But there's a lot of, like David said, there's a lot of questions, especially regarding the fact that there's substantial evidence towards voter fraud with what's going on right now, man. Like mortifyingly so. And unless you are completely unreasonable, you can look at the current events and say, all right, well, there's quite a few head scratchers going on here regarding this situation. If you're not, then you might as well go ahead and log out now, because we're not here to talk about unreason. We're here to talk about progression and some alternatives to obviously the chaos that is going to ensue, not just for this election, but for the upcoming ones. So we wanted to see if we can come up with some resolution for this, maybe some options, so some alternatives, because it's a different day and age, and we got to progress somewhere.
Right. Dude, like all day I've been listening to different political pundits and stuff like that, and it's really on both sides, right? For anybody to sit here and act like it's not voter fraud or you can't call it that, you're full of shit. And I've seen it on both sides. I've listened to conservative media outlets and they kind of wishy-washy. Hey, I'm not saying it's voter fraud, but I'm not saying it's not. Dude, again, let's stop with the bullshit. Let's stop with the fakes, okay? Like, it's too much trying to fake people out here. That's why we got into this whole voter fraud situation. It's no faking. I can look with my own two eyes and I can look at these videos. I can put two and two together. Dude, something's not right. Something is not right. This shit is fucked. And I don't know about you, but dude, I've lost faith in the system.
Yeah, it's
gonna take a wild card to restore that shit.
Well, they had one, and then they ended up dropping a one year basically banishment on the entire United States populace for it. So it ended up ensuing into the current predicament that we're in right now. But right. Yeah, dude, I mean, what's wild to me is they're not even seeming to try and be abstract about it. Like generally there's like, okay, well, as I'm sitting here looking at the electoral map, that's a questionable one. That's a questionable one. But at the end of the day, you know what? I can see how this or this such and such happened. Dude, this one, bro, I mean, you're watching just instantaneous turnarounds. Like the chain of events isn't like, it's not even elongated. Like, it's just, all right, well, this guy was losing horribly, and now all of a sudden you wake up the next morning and he's winning substantially. That's dude. The graphs are ridiculous. All the supporting evidence is really wild.
Is ridiculous. And there's video footage. People are getting caught red-handed. Right. I mean, hand in the cookie jar, deep in the cookie jar. Yeah. I'm talking about whole arm in that bitch, like, right. Oh, you got me. Dude,
but do they care?
Dude, it's a shit show.
But that's it.
They
it's
don't
like,
care.
They have to be, if they're that willing to go the distance, they either have to be like Manchurian candidates and they just don't have a choice, or they're well too positioned to where they're going to be covered for the rest of their life. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. As soon as their name disappears, like that David Hogg clown from down in Florida, like he went off the map for a little while there, and then all of a sudden, bam, out of left field, they brought his little bitch ass back, and he started.
Yeah, he's up at Harvard and all the other bullshit.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, so he was prime candidate for what they have planned, dude. They're grooming that guy big time.
Well, see, here's the thing. The reason why they don't fear any repercussions is because these people are well funded and well backed by people
Correct.
that's going to get them off. I mean, dude, let's be honest.
Exactly. Yeah.
In Philly, in Detroit, in Atlanta, I mean, dude, it's leftist central. Dude, the DAs, the prosecutors, the judges, shit like that, dude, they're not going to do anything.
No, right.
I
Yeah,
mean,
everybody's.
so who's
Yeah,
going to
you're
come in and actually lay down the law? Who's going to do it, bro? Hillary Clinton's still walking around.
right. Yeah.
Hunter Biden's still walking around.
So we could talk about we could talk about what drastic measures need to be taken in order to solve this, but I believe at this point in time it would just be going on a tangent. So
Yes.
If you guys are still listening in, we're actually not going to go down that rabbit hole. We've come to the
because I can go down there.
What? Yeah, everybody can. At a certain point in time, it's just bitching and griping.
Yeah.
Like, especially anybody that's listening is conservative right now, and you guys are still posting on Facebook. Like, you deserve what you get. Literally, Facebook isn't even, they're not even trying to hide it anymore. They're blatantly taking away your rights on Facebook. Tell everything that you say is being fact checked and instantaneously negated if they disagree with it. It has nothing to do with whether or not it's factual. Everything has to do with the fact that they own Facebook. The nerds own Facebook just the same as they primarily own YouTube, although it seems this platform's a little bit more accessible as long as you don't copyright shit here. So if you're still posting on Facebook and you haven't found an alternative, just like Facebook was an alternative to MySpace, then you know what, dude, continue down the trend that you're going. But that's not what this podcast is about. This podcast is talking about a different alternative. And you and I discussed it the other day. And what do you think?
So I think at this point, any male, any head of the household, what you need to be focusing on is preparation. Okay. And that's kind of what me and Mike talked about is preparation for the bullshit to come. Okay. And
right.
make
inevitability.
And make it, yeah, it's inevitable. Okay. So make no mistakes about it. Okay. Shit's gonna hit the fan, and shit's gonna hit the fan in a very ugly way, and it's gonna splatter everywhere. Main thing you can do is make sure that you're well protected, you're well funded, and you're ready to rock and roll at a moment's notice and get the fuck out of Dodge. Okay. And that's the thing that me and Mike has been talking, prepping. We're coming up with game plans because granted, yes, me and him may live in two different states, but hey, if he needs help, only thing he gotta do is call me, motherfucker, I'm on my way. No questions asked. Right. Locked, loaded, ready to roll. And same thing for him. Hey, if I got an issue and I need help, he's gonna jump in that big freaking F-250, 350, whatever the fuck it is. I forget what
it's 250. Okay. I only halfway compensated. I couldn't even go the full 9 yards.
Yeah, he's gonna ride on, man. So I think that's what everybody really should be focusing on because it's gonna be a long slope from here, fellas.
So now that we've updated you guys on what you already should have known, and if you're a female listening to this, your man or
if your man ain't talk to you about this, you got a problem, boo.
Yeah, or your significant other. I mean, we don't judge. We're not here to we're here to make sure that you're taken care of. So sure. whoever is the head of the household, whether it be you or the other individual, as long as they have a plan, a contingency plan for in case shit finally does hit the fan, then you're good to go. But what we want to talk about today was the fact that it's a different day and age, and we both feel, and this is really courtesy of my wife for coming up with this idea, but it made sense once we started running with it, was the idea of splitting the political parties and really having a sense of accountability that we don't seem to have anymore, and we've lost from just our politics in general. And that is the option of having two presidents rather than just one. So what are your thoughts on this, buddy?
As we talked, I do not disagree. I think when you look at the political map, right, the ones that which states leaned which different way, right? Okay. Just divide it up and break it up as that, okay? Let's be honest here. There's some places that are happy with the bullshit that's going on. They're content. and they're even extended it. So hey, you know what? We're not going to try to control you. We're going to let you be who you are. Okay. Again, everybody, the far radical left, let them be who they are. But you know what? Go over there and do it. Okay. Everybody else doesn't want to be, susceptible to your bullshit. So go over there and do it. Right. So let's have two systems to where one governs one side, one governs the other side, and everybody just live happily ever after. I'm fine with that. Dude, if you want to break away and you want to secede from the union, do it.
Yeah,
Do it. Like, fine. Okay, do it. Break off.
I agree. I mean, let's say we won't hypothesize an impending civil war. We've already kind of discussed that. So as I'm sitting here looking at a 2016 presidential election map, because I'm not going to look at the 2021. I don't believe in it. We've already talked about that topic as well. So I'm sitting here looking at this. All the states that I see that are red are generally red. And all the states that are blue are generally blue. Now, the complexity in this is the fact that I feel we need to switch the game up. So it's when the Electoral College was initially conceived, it was a great idea. But we also had about an 18th of the populace at the time too.
Right.
So we have instantaneous access technology for one. We've had an industrial revolution. We've had, like I said, an absolute birth in populace, overgrowth to be exact. And now, as we sit here and see this, every 4 years, we have circumstances where we try and have somebody come in, get themselves established, just one individual, I might add. And then during that period of time, they're trying to bring all their people in, for lack of better terms, with voting in the Senate and the Congress, as well as the House, and trying to get all that dominated. And then it's literally 3 years of the opposing side just constantly creating turmoil. So nothing fucking gets accomplished whatsoever, dude. It's not, hey, let's go hand in hand and try and resolve things. It's, well, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do so that way I can become a lifer. That way I can be sapping off the tax teat for the next 35, 40 plus years. So because of that, I was yelling at so-and-so across the aisle back on December 12th, 2017, that kind of dumb shit. So it's got to change, dude. There's no possible way, if we keep down the exact same path that we're going, that it's gonna finally even itself out. So what I propose is that we take the red versus blue vote, and we have a red president and a blue president. So we have the red president is in charge of all the states who dominantly voted red that year. And because of the electoral, I believe in the electoral process. I think that works. It's for the most part, unless you live on the West Coast, you live in liberal Midwest, which would be Colorado and New Mexico, or you live in New York and Massachusetts, where anybody that's outside of the major cities there isn't even considered a real human being. Yeah, you get what you deserve, as opposed to every one of the other states, minus like maybe Wyoming, North Dakota, and South Dakota, that instantaneously vote red. But that's because there's no major city there anyways. It's all agriculture. So they're going to do what they got to do. Mm-hmm. Or they're going to vote how they vote, because that's what the trend has been. So let's figure out which side's right. Let's do, I'm proposing within 5 years, we get to see, with the state split up, whoever's in charge of the blues, you get to see how much they've prospered or declined, and vice versa with the reds.
Absolutely. And make no doubt about it, there's some things that's going to have to be universal, like your military and different things like that. That's one of those things that just has to be universal, because you can't have a military for this side and a military for that side. That's dumb, right? So you're going to have a universal, some things that are universal. Okay. So, Great idea. Shouts out to Brittany for bringing that up. Me and you talked about it again. We both agree with that. So let me go to the flip side of this. And here's an idea that I had today, and I want you to know your thoughts about it. Okay, I'm gonna pinpoint one state, and we're gonna focus on that one state because, to me, it does such a disservice to all the people that live in that state. Let's take Oregon. Okay, Oregon, and again, you're from or you're lived in that area for quite a while, okay?
Right.
So as we know, Oregon just opposed to decriminalize all drugs, okay? Meaning meth, heroin, cocaine, whatever you want to use, crack, whatever, is now not a criminal offense in that state. Do you really think everybody in that state really wants that? No. Okay. Outside of Portland and that metro area, you have very sane conservative people in that state. So I do not like how a fucked up city with a fucked up mayor, of a fucked up city council, everything controls that state because everybody don't want that. So you know what? I think the electorals should be split within the state. There's no way that one person should get 55 electorals for California when the whole state can't even agree.
So here's my
When
question.
you look at this past election, or when you look at the 2016 election, when you look at the dominant red places in that state, that's only being controlled by what? San Francisco, LA County, Silicon Valley. That's not fair to the people that do not agree with the policies that's being imposed just by a few places. So take like Arkansas, where I'm at. I don't feel as if Little Rock should tell some of the smaller places how they should live, what taxes they should pay, what stupid kooky ideals or bills that they want to pass. No, it's not universal. Okay, the problems that go on in Little Rock is not the problems that go on in other rural areas. So I
Especially
think the
not Bentonville.
electorals, oh, especially not Bentonville, you know. So
Or really any other
I feel
town
as
besides
if,
West Memphis.
yeah. So I feel as if the electorals should be split. You know, I don't feel as if, because I mean, look at what we're seeing in some places. Even now in this election, the whole state went fucking red, but you have one liberal place that dictates the whole state. Everybody don't want that. So I just don't think that's fair anymore.
So what? So what are you saying then? Because I agree with you. Okay. But that would entail that some of the agricultural states need to split in half, or I guess in the case of Washington or California can literally split down the middle. If you
Mm-hmm.
look at them from a topographical map, they can absolutely split down the middle. Oregon, 2/3 of that place is agricultural. So that entire state is dictated by a pocket that's this big on the map.
Right.
Fucking nothing. And not only that, too, a methed out one at that. The only claim to fame for Oregon for the longest period of time, specifically Portland, and it was in a battle back and forth between Washington, was the highest suicide rate,
Mm-hmm.
and then back and forth between Washington and I believe Memphis for highest was it highest meth rate or some shit, highest
Right.
meth dealerships or whatever, most drug bust. So I guess since they legalized all that, that means that their numbers are going to go down. That doesn't mean, but if they want to continue to weed themselves out, they're doing a great job in that regard. So if you look at
Mm-hmm.
Washington State's the exact same way. Seattle's a fucking shithole. If you guys are listening, I live there. It's a shithole. So, and I know a lot of my buddies that listen as well. They are from Seattle and they are frustrated as all hell to exactly the fact that they've turned it into a busted San Francisco North. I mean,
Right.
minus the sunshine because it doesn't exist there. So yeah, so you split. So I say that a handful of the states need to step up and split. I think that the state concept is fine. That's where the only being serviced by electoral college portion of what you were talking about it concerns me though, because even if they
So
even if they fall under that exact same territory, let's say that they were red and their electoral area voted for red, they're still part of Oregon. So that means that they're still technically governed by Oregon.
So let's look at what Nebraska's doing and let's look at what Maine is doing. Okay. Now, you have different parts of Nebraska that are split and you get different electorals within that place because they obviously have different ideologies.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Same way in Maine. Okay. Literally half the state is one, the other half of the state is another. You get one electoral here and you get one electoral there because they don't see things the exact same way. So again, why should one city that's this big, that has a population of like 5 million people living in that big of a city, control the whole entire state? That's not fair. That is not fair because everybody does not think the same way. But you mean to tell me I gotta have that fucking person as a governor? You mean to tell me that my taxes has to be raised because your dumb ass? No. Again, so I think it's really time for political realignment in this country.
What's really horrifying too is the fact if you sit there and you actually look at the map of the electoral map of the counties that voted red as opposed to blue, it's inconsequential, dude. Like California, yeah, I mean, for the most part, they're primarily blue across the board. New Mexico, Colorado is an infestation of California. A lot of Californians moved to Arizona too, so they're turning it that way. But it's like, dude, as for the rest of the map, man, there's no excuse for it, dude. Like, I mean, what I'm sitting here, if I was to sit there and play the game Risk and I looked at this map, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to invade this portion of the map. There's no possible fucking way I would go into the red territories. Because there's a handful of 5 states connected that there's literally no blue spaces. It's all red.
Or either that, or there's very small blue places that control the whole entire state.
Right. Yeah. Right? Exactly.
So when you look, so even when you look on the East Coast, if you look somewhere like, let's say, for instance, North Carolina, practically in this election, when you look at the map for North Carolina, pretty much that whole state is red. But when you get places like Raleigh that has a large portion of the population just in that one place, they really can skew and fuck up things for the whole entire state that don't want those policies, that doesn't want that ideology, that doesn't want those or believe in those values. That's what I'm saying, is we have to stop thinking that there's one system that's going to work in this day's age, because everybody doesn't want that. So 2 options: either everybody breaks the fuck up and go their separate ways, or we have to realize that your well-populated areas will lean left. When you get outside those areas, everybody doesn't feel the same way. So why should everybody have to pay? It just does not make sense to me anymore.
Yeah, there's got to be a change, dude. So what we're talking about as well, let's expand on the federality aspect of this, which is, I completely agree with you. We have to keep some things federal. I mean, I think that there should still be a National Guard. There still should be a reserves. I think from a military standpoint, this is actually more beneficial than negative. So like, as the United States, we already have to vote in order to go to war. And we saw that partake back in 2004 or 2003 leading into 2004. So before the Iraq war even jump started, we had to go, the invasion of Afghanistan at that point in time. Before that even happened, we had to vote for it. Then we were already, but after that occurred, then all of a sudden we were in war, so they could just keep transitioning wherever the fuck we wanted to because we already had the area of responsibility over there. So with this, you bring an alternative in. So we would take 2 people at that point in time rather than just one person with their finger on a button, you know? So at that point in time, you've got 2 heads that have to come together and come up with a solid resolution rather than one guy who's just sitting there with someone yelling in his ear, you need to do this, and someone else yelling in his ear from the other side saying, you need to do this, don't do this. Then you got two people who are level-headed and can sit down in a room, get everybody else the fuck out of there and just talk it out. From both perspectives, the anti-war individual and the pro-war individual, or whatever the fuck the perspective is at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And the president doesn't make much. That's what's really horrifying about politics. But none of these politicians make a lot from a tax perspective. I mean, the average politician is only supposed to be making like $210,000 a year, which is still astronomical. But the president only makes $400,000 a year. So
yeah, but
I don't know how
it's the outside deals.
Yeah, right. That's how they become millionaires.
Right, because again, it's the backroom deals, it's the under the table deals. It is these overinflated speeches at Goldman Sachs that paid you $10 million for, again, Hillary. I don't want to hear you speak for 2 seconds, let alone hear you speak for 45 million. I mean, for 45 million for 45 minutes, and you get 45 million. That just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Right. I
mean, what does if it's a payoff for something else?
Which a lot of it is. Again, dude, it's just we've realized and we've come to a point to where we either have to change it or it was going to get bad. I'm not saying blow up the whole system, because to me, as part of my conservative values, I like the Constitution. I like what it stands for.
Right.
But you have people who don't like it. So, I mean, do your own thing. I don't care. Do your own thing. Go over there, live your life. Do California. Hey, we can move a lot of y'all into California. When y'all like to live in fun in the sun, I would.
Yes.
Go over there and do it.
Right, exactly. So and what it is it's a good alternative to find out which systems work and which don't as well. So then we would know, all right, well, first off, it would instantaneously weed out the scumbags. Like who's really siphoning off the top and taking advantage of the system. And then the other thing about it as well is it would finally be a resolve from both sides. So instead of sitting there, like I said, just constantly going through this merry-go-round of trying to bankrupt the economy, at that point in time, you would know, because there'd be enough tenure and stability without the other side of the table yelling at them to actually come to some sort of resolve and start establishing some sort of financial background system to get the economy back on track for whatever territory you're in charge of. So what I wanted to bring up, another option for you as well, and I wrote down here, was then we would need another hub center. I would say that Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, that's already a shithole. So it votes blue instantaneously. Literally, as soon as the map comes up for every single president or election day, it doesn't even take a 30-second vote. It literally just shows up blue, which is mortifying. So I say let him have it. The White House used to be in Pennsylvania. Used to be right there down the street from the old Liberty Bell, dude. So you guys can go ahead and have that. How about we do something for the flyover states? How about in the middle of, you know what? I'll go with yours. I love that suggestion earlier. Let's go with Nebraska.
What's that?
How about right in the middle of the Cornhusker State, we put a nice Republican White House?
We can go Nebraska. Hey, let's do a better one. Let's go smack dab in Iowa, baby.
Love it. I fucking love it, baby.
Smack dab in Iowa. See you, baby. We coming.
Exactly, dude. Put it somewhere in the middle. Show our agricultural states that we really appreciate everything that they do for us and the services they provide, because let's not kid ourselves, no farms, no food is not a joke. I mean, it's a fucking reality that people overlook. All these tech geeks and shit who are sitting around playing video games and bitching about the fact that they're outcasts. They forget about actual labor and the services that it provides, the oil industry, all these other places that primarily vote red, because they're out here working their asses off and just want to be left alone. When they're not at work, they want to be left alone. When they're at work, most of the time, if they're not in a team environment, they want to be left alone too, instead of having a bunch of fucking stupid ideals force-fed down their throat.
Fresh ground beef or plant-based burgers.
Correct.
You got to pay for that fresh ground beef if you want something. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Hey, our GDP going to be through the roof.
So
our GDP going to be through the roof, baby.
So we got Iowa or Nebraska, somewhere in the Midwest. And then from that point forward, we start establishing another system, which is I believe that the Senate and the House at that point in time can really begin to deteriorate. You don't need the House of Representatives and
I agree.
Congress and Senate. You really don't need those three background checking. You need half as many people, because you don't have people constantly fighting each other for ideas. So if you have a whole bunch of Republicans who are running their ideas together, then you have an efficient system where there's no complications whatsoever. The theory is you've got all the people who are of like mind that are having the same conversation, only trying to iron out the details. Then it should be the most pristine conditions possible for the outcome, as opposed to right now, which is literally flaming arrows coming back and forth across the aisle. Nothing gets resolved. It ends up being a tooth biter, and people are having to sit here and do underhanded bullshit, slipping bills in on page 674 of some sort of fucking, some sort of article they're trying to get enacted.
Yeah, so I definitely like that idea. The Senate, all right, let's get away with that. I think it needs to be the House of Representatives, because the things should be left up to the states. Okay, because make no mistake about it, what goes on in South Dakota is different. The needs are different from South Dakota from Florida. Okay, so I think there should be House of Representatives within the state. You communicate to the governor, then the governor communicates with the actual president of whatever faction that we have, right? So it gets rid of the Senate. Throw that out there. You have a House representative within the states, because that's how it should be. It should be left up to the states. States are different. Again, what goes on in Tennessee is not the same as Alabama or Mississippi or Louisiana. Again, it's different. It's completely different. Okay, so it needs to be, the House of Representatives needs to be left to the states.
Agreed. So the only one that I think needs to be maintained, though, and this is from the perspective of the fact that this actually pertains to lawyers, which, I'm sorry, you being a politician should not just be a lawyer. That's what pisses me off too. The fact that there's no alternative background or familiarity with any other industry other than just going to school for quote unquote politics, exactly, and getting a law degree. That's what enables you to end up being a politician right off the bat, which is fucking asinine. So the only one that I see still staying that way would have to be Supreme Court. I think the Supreme Court should stay as it is. You still need a quote unquote non-biased, governing body when it comes to any of the major law cases that are going to end up occurring throughout either zone, either red or blue district kind of deal,
Okay. So with that being said, it can't be an even number, because no, I take that back. I mean, you could have an even number, but as we know, even numbers, you're going to gridlock. You're going to gridlock and nothing gets done. Then I guess it gets forced back down to the states again.
The law's supposed to be blind. I mean, realistically, you shouldn't even have a political affiliation if you're going to end up being applicable for that position, right? In theory.
Correct.
You shouldn't be Democratic or Republican. You should only be concerned about what the facts are provided to you in the situation. Mm-hmm. There should be complete neutrality. You should have no political pundit to sit here and dictate how you feel about the circumstance of what happens. There should be nobody yelling at you or nobody holding up signs outside the courthouse that should dictate your outcome.
Right. Well, yeah, but see, here's the thing about the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court goes based on how is the Constitution written and how it's interpreted. Right. Again, we've established only one side believes in that. So
what I think the other side's, but that's what I'm saying though, is like, that's what we're trying to get away from. We're trying to go back to, we're trying to go to this. This is talking about a resiliency plan, which is going away. Everybody gets to have their cake and eat it too. It's just trying to fine tune how to do that. So, but I mean, as for the Congress, the Senate, House of Representatives, we can disband or really, really suppress down the numbers required for each one of those three places when you don't have all three of them in a row to try and counter the president. You know, having to sit here and because their system of checks and balances is not checked and balances, but checked and balanced by anybody else other than them. And they all are basically hand in each other's pockets. So there's so much corruption at this point in time, it has to disintegrate or has to dissipate. We have to find another direction or route to go with that. So with this, that's what I'm saying, is if you have a bunch of like-minded people together, then the outcome in this situation, this experimental phase that we're producing right now, should be prosperous to what your end game is.
Right. Yeah. And you know, ladies and gentlemen, you know, this is just, we realize that the system is effed up, and we're just trying to spitball ways to right some wrongs or change some things, because
complaining and getting angry and then turning around and just bitching about it on the exact same social media platforms that are literally taking your ideas and throwing them in the toilet.
Then ban you on top of that.
Right. Yeah.
Or censor you.
It's counterproductive. So our idea is to try and come to some sort of resolve and really look towards a progressive thought process. You know, come to the table with some ideas rather than just pitchforks and knives, which is, I mean, really that's the only other alternative that's been provided at this point in time. So
come to fisticuffs.
So if you guys have any ideas, please reach out to us. Please, we would love to hear this. We would love, if it's a good idea, let us know. If it's not, it's a bad idea, barbecue us, but give us constructive criticism, please. And if you guys have any ideas to make it, fine tune it a little bit more, we're all in. This is obviously just a rough draft, but I really think that it's a fair shot.
Hey, same people, let's hear your suggestions, right? You're going to criticize us for our suggestions. At least we're trying to come up with an ideal. Let's hear yours. Let's see if yours is any better.
And truthfully, we do. So, I mean, we're not unreasonable. That's what we're here for, is to come up with reasonable options, you know, to try and avoid ensuing anarchy. That's really what this entire episode is striving from. Because at this point in time, I would say tensions are at an all-time high. And if you're walking around and you're not carrying right now, I mean, you're literally carrying your fate in your own hands.
Oh yeah, because at the end of the day, me and Mike, we ready.
Yeah, we managed. We
good.
There's people that have been planning in advance, and I see a lot of other areas on this electoral map that coincide with what we're talking about. So.
Oh yeah.
But we don't want it to get to that point. Nobody does. Everybody just wants to be left alone and be about their day. And if you don't, I mean, you got to go. You got to go. You got to go to your little hobbit hole, whoever the fuck it is, just not where it puts me and mine in a position to where I have to make you go.
Hey, I got 2 places. No, I got 3 places for you. Portland, Seattle, San Francisco. You choose which one. You choose which shithole those 3 you want to go to, because
or the angles.
It seems like everything.
Los Angeles and New York City too.
Yeah, and anything flies in those places.
Well, and Boston. I mean, Boston's literally just owned by bankers at this point, so there's no such thing. That place is so corrupt. The whole state votes blue, and I know pretty much all of my friends that are from Massachusetts are conservative. So, and that's just because and that is really one of the most patriotic places I've ever been. So the fact that entire state is blue is horrifying.
Yep.
So, but yeah, reach out to us. What pod should they be reaching out to, and what should they be doing in the meantime, sir?
Uncommon Man Podcast.
Yeah.
Like, share, subscribe.
Bam.
Yeah.
Sweet. You guys take care. Enjoy. We'll see you on the next one.